it is I, the Count of Technical Difficulties. Just letting you know that the GameBrew had some technical difficulties as there was a visit from me. But while you are here, please remember to like and subscribe to the GameBrew Podcast and follow them on all of the social medias at the GameBrew. Also join their Discord by going to bit.ly/discobrew. Blah. I say that sometimes too. Blah. Or you can get some sweet games by going to bit.ly/GameBrew. It's a lot of fun and very spooky. Enjoy the podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 66 of the GameBrew Podcast. I am your host, Ian Richard, and I am joined by Allison Pazuzu Vandevender.
Your mother sucks cocks in hell.
Will Leatherface Shell. Chris Hannibal writes.
Fava beans.
And Dan Cuddly Puppies Rots.
Well, I'm surrounded by a bunch of cuddly puppies right now. It's really fun.
There.
On the first half of the podcast, we'll be chilling your bones with extra specially spoopy games. And in the second half, we'll talk about how developers use light and darkness in video games. But first, it's time for a beer. Herr Reitz, was trinken wir uns heute?
Oktoberfest, delicious Oktoberfest German beer.
Ja, meine Freunde. Prost! Prost, meine Freunde.
Prost!
Prost! So Chris, you just returned from a sojourn to the fatherland, no?
Ja.
Yes, I went there for a trip with me and my buddy Tyler. Got a couple Oktoberfest brews straight from the city, from the fest in the fest halls. Went to the Spaten tent and Lowenbrau tent. I walked through Hofbrau, but that place was nuts, so didn't spend too much time there. But I did go to Hofbrau House, of course.
Of course.
Because you have to.
It is the mecca of beers. You actually have to walk around it a lot. It's part of the ritual.
You have to pray. I pray towards it every day.
I prostrate myself towards. Oh, if that offends you, I am real sorry, but I promise to make fun of other religions later.
But yeah, so I actually got my beer. I brought a beer back with me from Munich because
That's so cool.
Yeah, so I have a 1 liter can of Paulaner Oktoberfest beer that is straight from Munich.
Yum.
That I will be
Nice.
drinking.
Also,
1 liter is the proper
later.
size of drinking.
1 liter is the proper. Ooh, what did I get? I don't know if it's a full liter. What is it?
Also,
it's a
I
pint.
heard
I have a pint.
I heard rumors that you drank not beer last week.
I don't know.
You were-
No. I don't know what you're talking
I
about.
understand.
We totally.
I leave for one damn episode.
No, we totally
whole
drank
thing
beer.
goes to shit.
No, we totally drank beer. I don't know who you heard
did.
that from.
Absolutely. Totally.
But
The whole
That
thing
sounds
goes
like
to shit.
lies.
yeah.
It was a Scottish form of beer.
Even Allison drank beer.
Yeah, Allison
so
drank
weird.
beer.
That's-
She's
I know
dead.
that's a lie.
She's a spooky ghost now. Look at her.
Oh, that's awesome. So, Dan, what are you drinking over there?
For this, I'm gonna do my mandatory Fun Commissioner impression. For the beers that we are drinking this week, I don't know.
To clarify,
really
he's not
good.
here right
He's not
now.
here.
This is
No,
just
This
the
is
episode.
me
Yeah.
doing an impression of him.
This is a drill.
You know, it's really good.
Yeah, I'm
You
drinking.
sound just like him.
I know. I'm drinking the Weihenstephaner Festbier for this episode. I have had 1 or 2 already before we started recording the podcast, so you might get fun Dan in the second half.
Oh,
Is it like Fun
lubricated
Dip?
Dan.
But
Fun Dan texts all of his ex-girlfriends really embarrassing things. So
Oof.
yeah, it's great.
do you know that there's
I-
an app to make you not do that?
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I'd have
Yeah,
to
it's
go
called
out of my way to download it, which I don't know about that.
Yeah, it makes you like solve puzzles and stuff.
I'd be good at that.
Before it unlocks your phone.
That's so
That's
smart.
hilarious.
That is really funny. I'm also drinking Weihenstephaner, but I'm
Yeah!
drinking the Vitus, which is a Wiesenbach, and it's like all of this beer is such good drinking beer. Like this is all day beer.
Kind of the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was averaging over a gallon a day there.
It's
Oh
light.
my god.
It's fresh. It's a little bit fruity. It's got really great head on it.
I love great head. That's one thing I will say.
Yeah. Yep.
On my beer. On my beer. Sorry. Excuse me.
Speaking of great head, what are you drinking this week, Will?
Oh, I thought that was going to come to me. Let's cut that out. That was too
No, it's staying in.
Yep. Staying in. Too late.
Well, I haven't
late.
got any complaints.
Oh, bing.
I got
I thought,
Molly.
easy.
Molly made me something.
Your parents would be so proud.
Boom.
Molly made me another one of those special things. There's pumpkin because October, and I don't know what else is in here.
wow.
Oh, it's
you
a-
should probably get her to write this stuff down.
So it's not formally a beer.
So it doesn't sound like it would
but she
probably
made it.
live up to the German beer purity laws. Then
No,
It doesn't
it would
sound-
not work.
Probably not.
They'd be mad.
Well,
good, though.
it's probably closer to mine. Like
Ooh,
mine's-
Allison, that looks
got a
very...
Das Boot.
Ooh,
Das
look
Boot.
at that.
Allison, Das Boot.
I even put in
It's
put
got
a
a
little
lime
apple
on it.
slice.
It's an apple.
slice.
Oh, it's so cute.
This is a fall drink.
Oh my god, please
Oh,
take a
that's
picture of
great.
that because it's the most adorable thing I've
Okay.
ever seen in my entire life.
Oh my
Fall
god.
apples.
I tried really hard, guys. I went very fall, and I'm doing rum. I think it was called like a apple rum cider punch.
Okay.
So apple cider. We have Malibu rum in here, lemon juice, cinnamon, nutmeg, and then that's it. And
Okay.
it's chilled, obviously.
Obviously.
So, yeah.
Obviously. What is that? What do you
Yum,
call
yum,
that?
yum, yum, yum.
What do you call that?
They just called it a apple cider rum punch cocktail.
That sounds
a lot of
very
work.
yummy.
That is a whole lot of words. I was just thinking.
Let's
that.
rename it. We're gonna name it.
Yeah.
The fall fun times.
There you go. So much
Oh,
better.
God. How are you in charge of this at all? Is the question that I ask.
I don't really think. I think honestly, my dominion over the podcast is nominal. At best. I'm only in charge by name. Everything else is set.
You're like the figurehead, but there's really there's 4 other people in charge just running things behind you.
That's exactly correct.
Oh boy.
So that's what everybody is drinking. Have we been playing some fun things this past week? I know I have some things
Well,
to
we've
talk
been
about.
playing some spooky things this week, or is that going to be in the different part?
That's gonna be the
okay.
yeah. So okay, well.
okay.
I was wrong. Well, then I did play other things because I was in the car for a long time.
I also did play other
Yeah.
things.
Same
Tell me
here.
about the other things, friends.
Well, I finished 2 games, so here's 2 bling blings. Bling.
Wah, wah, wah,
Bling.
wah.
Wah, 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 wah. That's the new sound. Wah, 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 wah.
That's very odd.
So I finished
That was wrong.
I finished Donut County because I played that like a billion years ago and I never finished it and it was really short. But I was in a long car ride, so I was like, I have my iPad. I'll finish Donut County while I'm here.
there you go.
Which again, super adorable and cute. It's just you put things in holes. The dialogue is kind of funny. I know we talked about dialogue last week.
It's like Dan's natural habitat, putting trash in holes.
Yeah, I'm basically
funny.
a raccoon. And I also played and finished the main story of Untitled Goose Game.
Goose
Which
Game.
everyone's talking about right now. So
Yes.
it's really fun and adorable and like super simple because you're basically just a rambunctious goose causing trouble, and it's great. Like,
How long is Untitled Goose Game?
I think I beat it in probably about 4-ish hours, but once you finish it, there are like more advanced objectives and you can like try and redo like whole lists of objectives in a certain amount of time. So like there's a replayability aspect of it. And also it's just fun to
So
be
we're
a
going to
goose.
call that a short or a medium?
I would probably call it a short game, to be honest.
Okay.
But both of those would probably be short games. But yeah, it was really fun, and the all the art style's really adorable, and the things that you do as the goose are really funny, and just sometimes just honking at people is great too. My mom was watching me play it for a little bit, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cute."
Yeah, I was playing it some this afternoon too. It's pretty fun. Some of it can get frustrating, like just because like.
It's a puzzle game.
I mean, I'm sure it's about as frustrating for the people that you're stealing stuff from as it is when they steal their stuff back.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's like, damn it, I stole that rake before. Stop taking that rake back.
Fair and square.
Fair and square.
Yeah, I really, I want to play it. Also, geese are assholes in real life, so I appreciate that they're bringing realism into an otherwise sort of
unrealistic.
Geese are terrible.
Yeah, it's good. Allison, what about you?
I've been playing my SpOOOoky game and some League, but I haven't really been playing
How's
much
the
else.
League going? Are we making forward progress this week?
We are, actually. I felt really good about it. I'm getting better, which is something for me that I'm not really good at saying, but I felt really good this week, actually. Very solid. So yeah, I feel great about it. Thank you. Snap, snap, snap.
Cool. Snap, snap, snap.
Awesome, that's great.
Snap, snap, snap.
Yeah, keep at it.
Snap,
Send us weekly team updates. I want to know about all the inner team drama.
Oh, I will. I hate everyone. That's the drama.
Nice. It is League of Legends.
Everyone
heard it
sucks,
here.
and it's terrible.
Everyone but my best friend Fee, because he'll kill me if I say I hate him. So let's not. Let's edit.
Yeah.
That's not
I
what
think-
friends do.
I think he's finally following the GameBrew Instagram. I think that happened the other day.
He just officially actually touched his Instagram
Oh,
for the first
nice.
time.
I saw that happen. I
Since
was like,
he made it.
How is he not following us already?
Yeah.
And Will, you've been exercising your thumbs recently. Is that correct?
I have. I found a way to actually.
You know what's
What?
funny is that I could tell just from your hands, like your thumbs are fucking buff right now. Like
I know, man.
they've got fucking biceps on your
I know.
thumbs.
Look at that. Wait. Look at the meaty part.
Wow.
All right.
That's it.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
a well done steak right there. That's how me.
Weird
Now,
flex, but okay.
I have found a way to actually enjoy some mobile games. You guys know that I hate most, like 99.98%
I don't think
of mobile
that's
games
true.
out there.
I think you say that, but for a person who hates mobile games, you play an awful damn lot of them.
I have found a way to enjoy
true.
them lately.
I'm content in the fact that I can say, Will, I have no idea what you like and don't like.
Good. I like to keep people guessing. I like to be fresh, you know. Nobody puts Will in a corner.
It's true.
Right?
Nobody puts Will in a
So-
Don't put Will in a box, people. He hates boxes.
So I was doing that thing. You guys ever pick up your phone and you're like, I got to clean some shit out. Like there's way too many apps. I don't use all this stuff.
Totally.
And instead
I
of
do.
actually doing that, I was like, well, let's see what useful things are. And I opened up the Google Play Store and there's this new thing that pops up. It's like, hey, do you want to do the Google Play Pass? And long story short, it's a subscription. You pay a couple of bucks a month. It's like $2 for the first year. And you don't get everything, but they release new things every week. There's a ton of games on there and apps, and you get the full thing. No advertisements. You get the full version. They don't nickel and dime you. So I was like, maybe I'll like some games with this. And I've just been going ham on some games. I've been playing One Line, 80 Days, Portal. What else? OTTTD, which is Over the Top Tower Defense.
Okay.
Which is really cool. You get like an engineer dude. My favorites, though, have been Soda Dungeon, which is not part of that, but I found Soda Dungeon in the process,
Soda
which I think we've
Dungeon.
talked about before, right?
I don't think
so.
Oh, Soda Dungeon is so much fun. And Space Marshals. Space Marshals is really, really cool for anyone who likes a top-down shooter. So I've just been going ham on any and all mobile games because I can actually play them, and I don't have to hit that frustrating paywall at some point. And I really
interesting.
like it. It's actually been really cool.
So that's subscription based thing, kind of like I guess Apple's doing the same thing. They're trying to do like the Apple game thing or whatever.
And there was that whole kerfuffle with the Mario Kart mobile app asking for $5 a month by itself.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Come on, Nintendo.
I think a little subscription for games makes it totally worth it because, I don't want to get nickel and dime for games and then not enjoy them. But for $2 a month, It's like $2 for the first year. Then after your first year, it's going to go to $5 if you keep it. But for $2 a month for a year, this is cool. I can test games out, and if I don't like them, I'll just move on to the next one. I haven't wasted money paying for something that turned out not to be fun.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That you do get the opportunity of trying something without ads. That makes a difference for sure.
For sure.
For sure.
For sure.
For sure. And Chris, you were traveling, so I don't know if you really got any video gaming done.
You say that, but I also too have a phone.
What's the matter? You guys don't have phones?
Yeah, that.
Suck it, Blizzard. Sorry, excuse me.
So I've been playing a lot of Roller Coaster Tycoon Classic on my phone over like the past few months.
You just love your fucking roller coasters.
I've only gotten
really does.
I've put hours into this game, and I'm only like halfway through all the scenarios, if that. And I'm finally getting to like the harder scenarios, so it's taking even longer. But it works really well on the Google Pixel 3 XL. I tried it on a regular Pixel, and it was just too small from like the everything was too small on the screen and too small for my hands. But like with the XL, it works really well. And I've been surprised at how intuitive it's been. So been playing that, getting my roller coaster fix. You know how I feel about that.
That makes me really want a port of XCOM 2 for my iPad.
Ooh,
that may exist. That might exist.
I'm sure that there's those at least
first
those types
XCOM
of games
does.
too.
Yeah. The first XCOM is on there, but
and then I was also playing this. I think I talked about this a long time ago. A game called Pocket Trains.
Yes. Yes.
So like immediately when I got on the train to go from Germany to Belgium, I downloaded Pocket Trains because I wanted to like.
You just wanted to be super meta.
Super meta.
So many
it's funny because
tries.
it starts you with as Munich is one of the train stations that you start with in the game.
München.
You were like, yes, please. Yeah, Pocket Trains, and there's that's like in a series, right? Because I played Pocket Planes, I think, before.
Yeah, so Pocket Planes is only on iOS. It's not on Android.
Okay.
So originally, like way back when I had downloaded Pocket Trains, I was looking for Pocket Planes.
But then you were
I
like,
didn't have it, so I was like, well, guess I'm doing trains now.
All right. Well, I think that is enough for our games that we played this week. But we've been playing some extra spooky things this week. So we have some horrible tales to share of scary games.
welcome to the scary games section.
Dan, I am curious.
Yes.
I am curious about this this Blair Witch game that you played.
Yes.
Was it all like just really close to the camera and heavy breathing and then just like, frantic shots of everywhere? Do you have control over the camera?
No, well, it's different. So basically, I played about 3 hours. I'm still working on it because this is a game by Bloober Team, which is the same ones that did the Layers of Fear games, which are some of that. Layers of Fear 1, one of my favorite games. Layers of Fear 2, also great. So far, Blair Witch, interesting. Not amazing. It feels a little walking simulator-y, but the things
I like that.
Yeah, I know you like walking simulators, but but some of the things that's in it are very interesting. There is not really a camera that you use. The whole story is told through. You have a flashlight, and you also have like a cell phone, and you have a like companion dog that walks around with you.
Yeah, and you can pet him.
You can.
And his ears flop back when you do.
It's true. So I was streaming this the other day, and one, because I needed the emotional support to play it, because scary games, but also like it was so comforting to have like an animal companion in this game, because something spooky would happen, and then the first thing I would do would be like, oh my god, I'm so spooked, I'm gonna pet my dog, and he would just immediately be like, oh, he's so cute, he's a good boy, he's a good boy, he's a good boy. And you can like give him treats and stuff. He like helps you find things in the game. It's a very interesting component, especially for a company that basically everything you did in the other games was literally walk and click on items to try and pick them up.
does that like actually stress you out more? Because I feel like I'd be more stressed out about my dog and making sure my dog was okay in the game.
The dog is actually a little bit more, because the dog is in the story. This doesn't really spoil anything, but in the story, the dog is kind of not just there to be your companion. He's like an actual emotional support animal. So there's like a part of the plot, maybe a little spoilers, people. But the part of the plot is that you came back from like Iran or Afghanistan or something like that, and you have some PTSD, and you join the police force, but they don't let you join the police force until you have like this emotional support dog. So that's kind of why you're there. Okay. And then there's a kid who's missing. So they told you not to go because you had so many issues, but instead you disobeyed orders and then went trying to look for this kid who disappeared in the woods. This takes place 5 years after the Blair Witch movie. So like cool. The mythos is there, like the Blair Witch stuff is there. And it really is very creepy, well, especially the woods. The woods is terrifying. Like in this game, they really make the environment feel like there was a time when for a good like 15 or 20 minutes, I was walking in a circle, and it was the scariest part of the game because I was like, I don't know if I'm actually walking in a circle or if the game is doing this to me, and I just don't know where the hell I am. But it was very interesting.
If it successfully did that, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it was great. Like so far, I really enjoy it. It is doing a good job. It has like the puzzle elements, like, oh, hey, I got to go find this thing. I got to go find this part to open up this thing. Kind of the same stuff I'm used to with Bloober Team. This game didn't get super great reviews just because it is kind of samey for all the rest of their stuff. There's only so much you can do with this format of game where you're walking around and like finding clues and trying to figure out, what's messed up in this scary, spooky situation. And you have a flashlight and you're looking around to like, there's some spooky things, and you have to shine the flashlight on them, and they go away when you shine the flashlight on them.
Right.
Did Maryland look good?
Who?
Maryland?
Well, okay, so right, the original Blair Witch was filmed in Burkittsville, Maryland, which is like this actually very gorgeous place with this.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of like the forest is really good looking. Like I have it, I was playing it on my PC, so everything looked really good. And it's just that you spend so much time like in the dark and afraid that you almost don't recognize it. Like it's like the environment really draws you in like the spookiest way possible. And I really like that in games where it like makes you, I think there were a few fucks that I had to say whenever something jumped out at me. But in general, it was mostly unsettling. And that's kind of what I like in scary things, because as you know, I am a connoisseur of spooky games. And things that are unsettling are a little bit more interesting to me than things that are like boo oh no, someone popped out at you. But
how many spooky ghosts?
But I would give it right now I would probably give it about 3.5 Blair Witch totem things out of 5.
Totem things.
Blair Witch stick figures.
Yeah.
Allison, did you want to hop in here? I know you have thoughts on scary games as well. You're like our other scary game aficionado.
High five.
I have a question though, for Chris and Will before we go to Allison real quick.
Okay.
Chris, if you had to take Dan or Allison with you into a scary video game, which one would you take?
I know the answer to this.
Just curious.
Same question for me.
Same question for you, Will.
Ooh, Dan or oh my god!
But you can only have one.
But I'll be really upset.
Only one?
Yeah.
I want to answer the question too. Because
I think I'd bring Allison just because I think her depth of background is larger than Dan's.
See, I don't know.
Oh, wow, that's a sick dig.
That wasn't supposed to be a sick dig.
I would bring Dan because I feel like Dan and I would always be on the same page because I can make any reference to anything, and Dan is always the only person in the room who knows what in the hell I'm talking about.
So if it was like
I don't know what you're talking about, Will.
So if it was like a Scream sort of situation, Will would take me in. I would take Allison, honestly, because I feel like she knows more about it. I feel like I'm kind of like the nerdy guy in the scary movie who like survives to the end, but not on purpose. It's just like he happens to be like not dead. Like the guy tries to kill him, but he like misses twice, so he just runs away.
No, it's true, guys. Like, my supernatural lore is probably my highest next to my Grecian, like, knowledge, which are both very pointless things to have unless we're in this scenario. So you should take me.
I want to know which one of us the listeners would take.
Allison.
I think we would all
Yeah, I
take
think it's
Allison.
pretty sick. Listeners, if you don't take Allison, you're wrong.
I want to know the listeners who they would pick out of the 5 of us.
Well, if they pick
do it.
anyone
I wanna
other than
hear it.
Allison, they'll
You're
be
saying-
wrong.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
All right,
we'll put it
sorry.
in the
Returning to video games,
Sidebar.
Allison. Yeah. go.
Yeah. So I played Resident Evil Biohazard.
Yes, or
Which-
7, right?
so-
Did you wash your hands afterward?
No. Because I literally dropped it and came here. So, but so here's the thing. I don't have a lot of spooky games I haven't played. And that's kind of the problem I was having. So I was sitting here like, should I just replay a really good classic? And I almost did. But then I realized this game's out and I haven't played it. So I bought it.
Wait, you never played? This is like 7, the first person one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And I've never played it. I
Oh,
never played it.
ooh, I'm interested. I want to hear what you have to think about it. then.
Yeah.
So I'm not done. I'll say that. So here's the thing. I did not play it VR.
It's okay.
I feel like did you play it VR?
I didn't play it VR. I played it on my Xbox whenever I played it. This is back. Oh God, this is like episode 2 of the GameBrew. I played this episode, or I played this.
Yeah, that was a while
Was
back.
it that long ago?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was
That
a
would be
while.
why I didn't think anyone played it. So yeah, it was. I feel like if I was playing it in VR, it would be terrifying.
Oh my God, yes.
It probably would be. But because I'm not playing it that way, although I've heard that the VR controls are very subpar,
Spotty, yeah.
so maybe not. But I feel like the controls are subpar anyway, so I'm having trouble with them.
Isn't that kind of like a throwback to Resident Evil games of yore? Like the controls have always, like
my
in every
God, they were
single great
abysmal.
Resident
True.
Evil game, all of the controls are fucking wonky.
That was part of
Right.
the experience, though, like panicking your shit trying to figure out how to run away.
right,
I
exactly.
I expect that with an old game. I don't expect that with a current game, I guess. Especially where it's very unforgiving.
Yeah.
Like
I see.
it's in this game, they throw you in there with really no direction. They're like, this is how you run, this is how you crouch. Good luck. And that's literally
Go.
the tutorial that you get. So it was very, very hard to get into at first because I was really immersed in the world, but there wasn't a lot to interact with. Like there was a swing outside that I could push, and I just started doing that for a little bit because, like, I don't know, I really like environments that I can work with and just kind of mess around with. But there wasn't a lot of that. That moment at the beginning led me to believe I could like play with a lot of the environment.
Yeah. There's
And I couldn't.
Yeah, there's a lot. And that's kind of the same way most Resident Evil, like that's kind of where it stuck to kind of the Resident Evilness of it, which was very interesting.
Yeah.
Which is where it's like there are certain things you can interact with, but in general, the environment's kind of static. You don't really have an influence over most of it.
There are like keys and keyholes, and that's how
Yeah.
Resident Evil works.
Right.
And with this game and the way they did it, I wanted an interactive environment. The way it was kind of played out and laid out to me, and I didn't get it. So I felt like I just wasn't doing much. Like I would walk around and I would pick up some items, and you know, there's things that go together, and great, that's Resident Evil. Let's combine these things and make potions. And over here, I'll solve this puzzle and this and that. But there were really unforgiving moments that weren't explained, and then they didn't give me an opportunity to figure them out. It was like once I died, they were like, "Hey, do this, and then you'll get through." And literally the
interesting.
load screen would say it, and part of me is like, choose your game style. If you want it to be hard, and you want the point of this game, like obviously not to be really full exploration, because I can't interact with a lot of stuff or go a lot of places. There's kind of a direct path you want me to go because you lock doors behind me. Like, then don't tell me how to solve what I'm trying to do on my first death. Like, let me have that experience.
How, Allison? How far into the game did you get? Would you say? Like,
I think I'm in the third building.
Okay. So
third building, fourth building.
Because it's very interesting to me because it is very different. Like, as far as Resident Evil games go, like when they went from Resident Evil 3, like Resident Evil Nemesis to Resident Evil 4, it was very different. Like they changed a bunch of stuff. And then once they went to Resident Evil 7, well, I mean, Resident Evil 6, or I'm sorry, Resident Evil Giraffe, we're just going to ignore
Giraffe.
But Resident Evil 7 was a big change, like, for them whenever they went into it.
Yeah.
Would you say that you are, like, does it make you feel spooked, though? Like, being in that first-person mode? Like, does that feel scarier than if you were in the, Resident Evil 2 third-person kind of stuff?
It's more spooky for sure for me. That kind of, like, I can't see what's going on over my shoulder or behind me kind of thing at all is definitely the only thing that this game has. It's like the environment there. It creates that anxiety. It's like I have to turn to see everything. So I'm constantly spinning around because I'm nervous when I hear a creak. Because I'm like, what is it? So that is the only thing the game really has for me. Like, it's all jump scare.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel creepy.
I would agree with you.
Do you think, Allison, and Dan, since we're talking Resident Evil here for a second, do you think that they're going to continue with this style of first-person Resident Evil games for Resident Evil 8, or are they likely to return to more of a traditional third-person perspective?
No, after RE2, like when they re-released RE2 and it had such a wildly amazing reception, like there's no reason to go back to the first. It was a good digression. I think digression. It
was something different.
The divergence that they made there was interesting, and I like that they are willing to make that change. Like same. Capcom making the decision to say, hey, let's try going a radically different direction and see how it works. And then and it kind of worked. Like it was fine. You know, I don't think this Resident Evil 7 Biohazard was better than Resident Evil 6 by miles. And that is good.
The story was good. Like there were redeeming things.
Yeah, right.
But like overall, I give Resident Evil Five Nights at Freddy's edition like 3 spooky ghost ancient coins out of 5.
3 spooky ghost ancient coins out of 5. Okay.
So some
all
mediocre
right. Chris,
stuff?
what about you?
So I played a game called Betrayer. I've actually had it for a really long time. I bought it on like a Steam sale a couple years ago.
Betrayer.
So lay this one out for us real simple, like, because this is not one I'm familiar with.
Sure. So Betrayer is a first-person action adventure game set in colonial Virginia, 17th century. Basically, kind of similarly to what Allison was talking about, you're plopped down into the situation with not really a lot of information to go on. And I think that builds kind of the mysteriousness about what's going on. You have to find out. The other big thing that you notice off the bat with this game is that by default, they have the game set to be black and white with red accents. It's something that you can change, and it actually looks pretty good when you resaturate the colors. But I found, like, I played a little bit with the saturated color, like the actual real colors, and I felt like it didn't really have as much scariness to it. Like I thought that like having the reds pop for enemies and items and particular characters gave it a little bit more of a mysterious vibe to it, and I think that's the reason why they did it.
Is it kind of a mystery-based game? Like, is the point to sort of like learn about the world and what's going on? And if so, is that delivered in text or speech or?
It's all delivered in text with a little bit of environment. Basically, there's like a couple different little zones that you go into, and you kind of have the same gameplay loop within each zone. So you go in, you see like the situation, like there's no really anyone else out there besides like Spanish conquistadors that are trying to kill you, and that's about it. Oh, also Native Americans who are also trying to kill you. The conquistadors are pretty easy to spot. The Native Americans are very creepy, and you'll just start hearing bird whistles, and then they'll just pop up. And
it's terrifying.
So those were getting me for a little bit. But then you also have to go into like this twilight realm by ringing a bell, and then you have to fight skeletons and ghosts and stuff like there. But that's how you are able to converse with the dead to figure out how people died. And most of the time it's a pretty shitty way because people were just fucking each other over for different stuff. Like the first one, this one kid was playing with a pistols and he accidentally shot himself, so then the mother committed suicide.
Oh God.
Yeah, so like you find that out eventually. So that's like, so it's stuff like that that's just like really twisted.
It's unsettling.
Does it feel like stuff like that? I feel like can come off as a little bit like they're trying really hard to get a reaction out of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless you sort of like lay the groundwork where like the like kid has a backstory and it like means something and there's some kind of consequence, or is it just like a kid shooting himself for them trying to get a reaction out of you?
No, so it was kind of setting up the fact that the dad wasn't paying a lot of attention to his family. And so like it's kind of given to you in little bits, and there's kind of like a unreliable narrator situation going on because the ghosts themselves don't remember everything until you bring up like something that you dug up out of the ground, like a piece of cloth or the pistol itself, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I remember something happened.
Side note, right, that is one of my favorite literary devices, unreliable narrator. Narrator. So good. Also, shout out, Chris, you get 10 points just for bringing up that amazing literary reference.
Huzzah! But yeah, I mean, overall, I thought it was an interesting game with some really cool elements, but the gameplay loop after a while started getting...
It was kind of samey. Like, it just...
Yeah, I mean, like, you would just go to a new zone, have to find the bell to ring, and then kind of put everything together while trying to survive also.
Who's the chick with the red hood? Like, cause I keep...
That's the maiden with the red hood.
That's literally like what the person with the red hood. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you find out more about her later, but that's like right at the end.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a cool game, but yeah, I wouldn't pay more than like $5 for it.
Okay.
Cool. Good to know. I played a game called Little Nightmares, which was a suggestion by Dan, actually.
Yes.
And
I really want to try that.
It was a great suggestion. I think,
especially because you're a little pussy. Little Nightmares. Bitch. Sorry.
Wow.
Pussy.
Okay. So this is a scary game for pussy little bitches like me.
Boom down.
And it's so what it is you're basically this tiny little person in a raincoat, and you're trying to escape. Oh, Chris. Sorry. How many spooky ghosts for Betrayer?
So I would give this game three pieces of wampum out of 5.
Okay.
Also, I did finish it. I just want to say that.
I'm putting it in. That's gonna be the new fucking sound.
Okay, cool. So in Little Nightmares, you are this little tiny person. You're sort of like a gnome, but like much smaller.
Like a kid. Is it like a kid? It seems like a kid.
Yeah, you're like a kid. It's very much it's got kind of a Limbo-esque feel. So it's a side-scrolling 2D, 3D platformer where you're basically trying to avoid getting like caught and eaten by the denizens of this ship that you're on. And I really love, it's got a very like a clay sort of feel to it. The things that are in there sort of look and feel like clay, which is something that I loved in another game that I'm trying to remember the name of.
Just
Clay Fighter 64.
Clay Fighters.
Oh, what a good game. That was so fun.
No, just looking at it, it kind of reminds me of some of the art style from like
Inside
Nightmare Before Christmas or
oh yeah, like that Tim Burton
kind
stuff.
of the Tim Burton look. Yeah
Yeah, it does. It does have a very sort of Tim Burton-y vibe, and like the monsters, the like monster people who are in this game have super long arms, and this is like exactly the nightmare that I have of the thing that lives under my bed. Is it's like a humanoid thing, but with like insanely large arms and scary teeth, and then it appeared in this game, and I was like, shut the fuck up! Look at that thing, it's crazy. But the gameplay is really good. I really love the look of it. I like that it's sort of simple, and the platforming is really solid, sort of like a light puzzle solver. But this game is about atmosphere more than anything else. More than gameplay.
I'm interested in if because and as I said before, you're a pussy little bitch, and you don't play scary games. Like I know Allison and myself, we like to play these spooky games. And this honestly, this question is probably for Chris too, and Will. But do you feel like, were you scared playing this game? Like, did it make you scared whenever you were playing it?
No, it didn't make me scared. I think there was sort of an air of being just a little bit like creeped, but not scared, never, no. And the game that I was thinking that it looks a little bit like is the Swapper.
Oh yeah,
which is another wonderful game, very puzzly. In case you're interested in sort of a puzzly space game, the Swapper, check it out. But yeah, no, it didn't make me scared. I wasn't scared.
Okay, that's good.
For mine, I would say there were situations that kind of like got to me. One thing I forgot to mention was some of the sounds were the things that got me. So like I was talking about the Native Americans in my game, but there was also like totems that you had to go up to, and they would just let out this guttural screech that like sometimes would just like raise my hair. But
okay,
that was
okay, because that's interesting to me, is because I think sometimes with spooky games there are things that are unsettling and there are things that are scary. There's a lot of things in as humans that make us like scared of stuff. There have been very few games that I have played and I had to stop playing or like put away for a little bit because it made me terrified and I couldn't do it. Amnesia: The Dark Descent was one of those games where I had to stop playing it for a little bit because it made me like too spooked, and I couldn't do it. Like I literally had to take like a month off just to kind of reset myself.
Wow.
I remember feeling that way about the original Resident Evil.
Yeah, it's tough, but it's like a good game will do that. A good scary game will do that. A good scary book will do that. Good scary movies will do that too. Anything that like has the right type of spook factor will really get you to be like, ooh, I don't know if I can keep doing this for a little bit.
Cool. Will, did you play a scary video game?
I pulled out the scariest game ever because it's scary how little fun it is, and that was Kerbal Space Program.
Oh my god, fuck you. Get the fuck out of here.
Oh, no, I pulled out, and I talked about it a year or two ago. I forget how long. Soma.
Oh, yeah.
The first-person horror game. That is one of the only... there are very few games that can keep me on the edge of my seat, and it's so atmospheric, and the sound design is just incredible. And the experience is phenomenal. And when things get intense in that game, oh man, you're at the edge of your seat. And like you just got to stay engaged in what you're doing. You got to get from A to B. And like I can't say too much about what those encounters are like, but you're gonna shit your pants. It's so good. It's such a good scary game. And the premise of Soma, for anyone who didn't listen last year or is maybe new to the podcast or just hasn't heard of Soma, is to be as succinct as possible. You go in for like a brain, not surgery, but like a brain scan, and then you wake up and you're under the sea. And that's all you know is
how brain scans are supposed to work.
That's not how brain scans are supposed to work, but it's a very dreary environment, and you start to notice everyone's dead, and very quickly you start to notice that everyone isn't dead. They've been turned into like these abominations of like they are machines. They've combined humanity with machines in just terrifying, atrocious, terrible ways, and it's just great. The environments are good. Everybody needs to play it. You'll shit your pants. As a matter of fact, go ahead.
Is it this? I remember this game being a little bit controversial because you can play it without enemies that can kill you or something. Like you can turn off deaths in this game. Is that so?
Yes, you can turn that off. I played it just on normal mode, and I mean, you die, but you go back. It's not a game that like punishes you for death. It's an experience, and it's an edge of your seat experience. And the atmosphere and the engagements with the enemies are what create that. So if you die, you go back a few minutes in the game, to the beginning of whatever encounter that you're in. But there were a few encounters that I had to do like 15 to 20 some odd times, and they were continually edge of your seat encounters the whole time. My stress level was high. I was, panicked the entire time, and it was scary. Actually, there are very scary moments in that game. I do recommend playing it in the dark, surround sound headphones on, late at night. Like, that is the way it needs to be experienced.
There is a movie that came out a long time ago, but it was in like the 90s.
Sphere?
No. Well,
Deep Blue Sea.
That movie is terrifying. Event Horizon is another one that's really,
oh my god,
that one will make
yes.
you like claw your eyes out,
poop your pants.
But no, it was like it takes place on a ship, and there's like technology starts coming to life and like killing people and taking over their bodies. Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
Oh, Terminator.
No, not Terminator. It was another one.
Are you talking
Terminator
about
2.
No. Are you talking about
Judgment Day.
It's the Brave Little Toaster. The Brave Little Toaster.
Yes, that's
I've seen
sure.
this.
Brave Little Toaster. GameBrew fans.
Yo, that did frighten me.
Yo, that movie was
The radiator
terrifying.
scared the shit out of me.
That crusher at the end.
Oh,
that thing
God.
was-
Crusher.
If anyone knows what movie I'm talking about, please at Tube Crazed on Twitter, because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but I know it's a movie out there because I was terrified of it as a child.
All right, Will, how many murder robots are you going to give us?
I don't give it any murder robots, but I will give it 4 out of 5 pairs of soiled underwear.
Okay.
4 out of 5 pairs of soiled underwear.
Gross.
4 out of
Somebody do the laundry.
Because first, as some famous comedian, I forget who, said, when you're scared, first you say it, then you do it.
I get it.
See, Dan gets
I
it.
get it.
Speaking of doing it, that's going to be it for us on the first half of the podcast. We'll be back in the second half talking about light and darkness in gaming. Stick with us.
Spooky. Hello, it is me, the Count of Technical Difficulties. Hopefully you have not experienced any detriments to your podcasting experience. Also, I want to suck your blood. I did not remember if I said that before, so I wanted to say that. But I hope in the second half, where the technical difficulties start to get worse, is not too bad. Well, enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the second half of the GameBrew Podcast, episode 66. Dan, I see that you are on your 5th beer there. Tell us about how you're feeling right now.
I'm good.
Interesting.
I feel good.
Interesting.
I don't know. I feel like there's I don't know. I feel a little spooked out by. I hope nobody's trying to kill me. There's a lot of fog in my room. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's good. I feel in a happy place, as the German beers are like to do. They make you feel very good, and it's nice. It's like very light and drinkable. So I'm a little toasted. Like just a little toasted.
It's weird, Dan, that you keep doing that Australian accent.
I know, it's really weird that I keep doing. I can't stop. I think the MFC is rubbing off on me a little bit, and not in the sexy way, like in the he's around and it makes me. Did I not mention he's like staying here? Like he's been he's been living with me for like the past month and a half. It's really
Has he been like paying?
No, it's very inconvenient. Like
Is it
All
because
right,
he
see
only
you guys
has,
in a few hours.
Is it because he only has dollary dues?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
hasn't,
he's got.
like, exchanged-
Yeah, I keep asking how he's paying me. He says I've got all of these dollary dues, which he keeps pronouncing. It's pronounced as dollary dues, and like it's dollary dues, which is better than dollary don'ts. Apparently, I don't know. I haven't seen most of those, but yeah, no, it's.
But Dan's feeling
I feel
good.
great.
That's the moral.
I feel positive, and listen.
spiritually and emotionally.
People, I look at myself in the mirror and I go, you know what? You're a good person, and people like you. Gosh darn it.
There
Dan,
you
And gosh,
it's not your fault.
Gosh darn it.
people
like
you.
It's not your fault.
Dude,
go.
don't fucking
Allison,
do this to
is
me, man.
your
It's not your fault.
is your fall leafy rum punch beverage apple cider drink?
We keep saying adjectives.
I was going to until you so rudely interrupted.
Okay. So here's what I'm gonna say about this drink. I don't know if I'm an alcoholic.
Can confirm.
So when you start a
Can confirm.
like that,
But there are two things I realize when I make recipes. One, there's never enough alcohol in it for what I think is appropriate.
Okay.
Like, I can't taste the alcohol at all. So then,
that doesn't mean it's not there.
but to me, that means I'm not drinking alcohol. And that's more dangerous, probably, than anything. But even adding a little more rum while we were in the podcast, because I felt like it just wasn't enough. I don't know. I could drink this like Kool-Aid, and that's a problem.
Yes.
It's
You know.
That's my girl.
Everyone has their own limits,
This is why
and
I'm-
take care of yourself.
That's why me and Allison are in love. It's because y'all are a bunch of bitches.
It clearly that's it right there.
Totally.
Okay. I like how Chris is the most offended because he's not used to being casually insulted by Dan, whereas the rest of us are like, yeah, this seems all par for the course.
Can we just go over that they call me 1 gallon Chris?
I'm sorry. Chris and Allison and me are in love, but
Will,
The rest
would
of you two are
like to,
bitches.
change? Would you like to change your answer and take me in your scary video game?
I can do lots of funny voices. I could
Dan,
talk like I'm
entertain.
from the great country of the UK. Wait, that's
Wait a minute.
All right.
Sorry.
Hold on. We need to tamp down on the drunk impressions before we go too much
Wait,
farther.
Dan, can you and I repopulate the world in the event that we're the last two people?
I mean, you've seen Jurassic Park. Life finds
That's
a way.
important.
Life finds a way.
Wow.
life. Okay,
You're
I'm sold.
missing an important word in that sentence, Stan.
It's 2019. We can do what we want.
All right. Do you think Will and Dan babies would they be as neurotic as Will and Dan are combined?
I would certainly be attractive.
He's so hot. Good goddamn.
And pretty good
Best
too,
baby.
I bet.
Oh my god. It's pretty dark there, considering the end of the world and you and Dan having to repopulate it, Will. And,
And yet,
speaking
in
of,
some ways, it's pretty light out too. There's some light at the end of the tunnel.
yeah, the light at the end of the tunnel is our topic for the second half is light and darkness in gaming, believe it or not. And this is sort of a great pairing with the earlier spoopy games because a lot of horror games take light and darkness into account when they're building their systems. I think a great example is a game called Dying Light, which many of us has probably
Yes.
played.
Yes, indeed.
It's sort of like an action RPG with horror elements, and what they did is they
Drop
used
kicking simulator.
drop kicking. True. What they did is they used the day-night cycles to really change how gameplay worked. So during the day, you sort of felt really powerful, and you could go drop kick zombies to your heart's content. But at night, there were kind of like super zombies that came out and you had to play much more carefully and much more stealthily. And so it created a gameplay loop using light and darkness, which I thought was a really cool thing. So I'm wondering what other games use really cool, use night or light and darkness to a cool effect in the game and how.
Well, I think it kind of ties into our first conversation about the games we were playing, because that's one of the things that Resident Evil Biohazard did to create the creepy environment. And a lot of scary games do that, where I'm walking into this abandoned house at first, and basically the light is the light I have in my hand. And so it creates this like intensely scary environment, especially in that first person view I have, where I'm turning to provide the light. I honestly, at the beginning of that game, thought I'd be more scared than I was. So I was going really creepily from room to room, thinking something was going to jump out any second, because all I had was the light in front of me in a lot of these rooms. There wasn't any external light going on except through some windows and things like that. So it creates like a really intense environment when you're in that situation, and created a lot of anxiety for me.
Because there are things that are unknown, right?
Unknown, right. And
Right.
so I'd walk into the next room and just stand there for a second and be like, okay, I guess, I don't know. Should I move?
So what I actually think is interesting is that sort of a departure from earlier Resident Evil games, because the ones I've played, at least 4, 5, 2,
Right.
and 1, don't really rely on darkness that much to make things scary. It's more like an atmosphere, jump scares, sort of anything could happen at any time kind of thing in Resident Evil games.
Yeah, and I do think they kind of like that got less so the more I went through the game, but at the beginning it was definitely a huge impact.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a lot of games it's used as like a place of safety. In that one game from Software, it's used as a place of sanctuary, literally. In games like the first Gears, there was at night you had to get to a certain place by nightfall, and you kind of had to jump from like light spot to light spot, because that was the only places that were safe. It's kind of like
the
in
Krill that we're called is what that.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of Pitch Black in a way. The movie Pitch Black with Vin Diesel.
America's greatest achievement there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Where the light is sort of used as an antiseptic or a place of safety is pretty common. But the interesting thing about that too is that occasionally those tables are flipped, right? Where light is dangerous and being in the dark is what you want in a lot of stealth games.
Yeah, like if you're a vampire.
True.
Yeah, in a lot of stealth games, what you want to be is you want to be in shadow, and I think that's a really interesting way to kind of turn things around with a light mechanic.
I think so. I mean, like that's a big deal in the Dishonored games. Do you ever if anyone has played any Dishonored stuff, they have the Go ahead. What were you saying?
Oh, I was going to say, and Mark of the Ninja too. Has anyone played Mark of the Ninja? A great 2D sort of assassination stealth game. Really, really fabulous. Works with darkness.
Right, and it's interesting because those are gameplay mechanics in those games. There are some games that really use it as that, where it's like, okay, you're in the darkness, you're hidden, no one can find you, or it makes it harder to find you. I guess.
Or even just like outside of a searchlight. That's like if you're like near a prison type thing in some games.
Like
very Metal Gear Solid.
Call of Duty, where there's always the sniper level where there's searchlights going around. You have to be in the grass outside of the searchlights. But yeah, and that's very interesting that there are some games that use that as a gameplay mechanic, but then there's some where it's just like it's just an extra thing that's there.
It's more ambience than it is actual mechanic.
Ambience, you mean?
Sure.
Ambient
ambience
sounds ambiance.
But there are other games that use it as a mechanic, not as like a stealth mechanic. If anyone's played Darkest Dungeon, light is a really important mechanic in that game, but it's not a stealth mechanic. So Darkest Dungeon is basically like a character dungeon diver, but it's more like a strategy combat kind of thing. And you have a health bar, but you also have a sanity bar. So your health obviously goes down as you get hit, but your sanity bar or your madness bar, maybe it is, goes up. It like fills up. And if you get too much madness, you develop like these psychological problems, and they affect gameplay later on. So you have to be really careful about that. And the way that you stave off those things to a large extent is making sure that there's light. In like you have a torchlit in your party.
I remember that now that you say that.
Yeah. It also plays kind of a role of like limiting how far or how deep you can get into a dungeon before you need to like bail out and be like, okay, I'm done. I need to come back later. And it creates a risk kind of reward situation where unless
I assume
you
it's a
have
roguelike.
It's not really a roguelike, no. It's like a strategy dungeon RPG.
Yeah. It's a little different because it's not, I don't know. It's hard to.
You might actually really like it, Chris. It's like basically imagine like a D&D dungeon, and you have your party, except like combine it with the Mountains of Madness or some other H.P. Lovecraft kind of thing, and that's what it is.
Actually, H.P. Lovecraft is a really good adjective for that. That's really good.
It's a noun,
but that's okay.
But it's being applied as an adjective.
Lovecraftian. Oh, Chris,
Welcome,
just high fives
everyone,
all over the
to
place.
Excuse me.
English verbiage podcast.
Perfect English
Perfect
grammar.
English grammar book here. You apply that down as an adjective, son.
Can I bring up the Don't Starve Together? We played that early in the podcast
Don't
stuff
Starve Together.
Because that had the same, like,
shit.
there was the sanity. I hate that game too. But the sanity function and, like, that darkness where it's like when night comes, if you don't have light, you have to create light or else you can't go on. Like, you will die because there will things that will kill you. Like, darkness is a very important part of that game.
I feel like that's a lot of those survival games. Like, you kind of have required to have light.
I think, but that was one of the first ones that like really like made it the most important thing.
Well, it's pretty critical in Minecraft. If you think about it, like if you don't have torches around or like and the moon's not out in Minecraft, it's dark as fuck. I remember many a day in vanilla Minecraft just like tapping my fingers in my little cave with my one torch because I couldn't go outside waiting for the sun to come up.
Man, you're right. Bringing it back to Minecraft. So that's so 2000.
Alan Wake did some pretty interesting stuff with it too, just by having the flashlight with you, and I think that stunned enemies. It
like stunned them or like made it so they were vulnerable and you could kill them because you would like stun them or like get the darkness off of them and then you could shoot them with your gun so that it would work.
It's also interesting to think of light as like a really blunt device, like in Twilight Princess. Chris,
Yes.
Did you ever play all the way through Twilight Princess?
Not all the way through.
Okay.
Gasp.
But Dan did.
I'm over gasped. I did. No, I did play all the way through that. But that was interesting, like the Twilight functionality where it's like there's a whole nother realm based in like how the light and the dark combat each other. And that's a big like good versus evil, the light versus dark stuff plot point in video games in general.
Yeah, and I kind of had that in Betrayer too, like going into like the Shadow Realm or like whatever you want to call it. They didn't really have a name for it. But yeah, I mean it's cool to like go into a different version of things. It makes it so there's a little more replayability. It doesn't make it as samey, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys kind of feel like the light and dark aspect, except for like I remember it when I was growing up being in dungeons, right, in games, but I don't remember old games using it more so than that. Like you had maybe a torch in a dungeon level of
The first-
some basic adventure game, but that was kind of it. And I feel like it's more prevalent now.
The first game I remember using it at all, or at least for me, was Metal Gear Solid. I can remember like trying to dodge those spotlights, trying to get across the little map there. And I don't remember it before that.
I mean, Zelda's used it a lot, like for puzzle stuff, like opening doors.
That's true. SNES Zelda did that too. You got to light the lamps and stuff to.
But I feel like so Final Fantasy, for example, I would say Final Fantasy never used it until 15. And then 15, they were like, night is bad. Extra bad. Monsters come out then. You can drive on those roads.
Dang.
You could drive on those roads, but hey, you're doing so at your own risk kind of thing. And you have to drive manually, whereas everywhere else is automatic. Like I kind of feel like in Minecraft and those kinds of things, those games all utilize it in a very different way. And it feels like a more modern concept than just your basic light.
Yeah, that's true. It's definitely more nuanced than it used to be. But you can think of examples where like darkness or the unknowing of things go back really far. I want to say it's Super Mario. Yeah, Super Mario World had a couple of ghost castles where like you only could see what was around you and then like little torches elsewhere.
Yeah.
And those were a big pain in the ass. And there was like also the original Rogue game, which like is what roguelike and roguelite are referring to. You didn't have darkness, but you did have like a fog of war where you only knew what you'd already seen, I think, and you had to kind of discover it as you went along.
You saying fog of war brings up a really big point. I mean, that was such a huge thing in real-time strategy games like StarCraft or like Age of Empires, like the fog of war. So like you might have seen
vision.
Yeah, getting that vision and being able to see those things. But like once you don't have a unit there, then it just goes dark and you don't get to see anything. That's a huge mechanic in those games.
Yeah, for sure. I honestly didn't even think about the Super Mario game, so that's a good point.
Come to think of it, darkness was around light and dark was around even in text-based stuff. I don't know if you guys... Like Zork and whatnot, you had to carry a torch into a room to see, and even some text-based MUDs, multi-user dungeons online that were text-based. You had to carry torches. Yeah, MUDs. Yeah, you had to carry torches and stuff around to see in different rooms, and even in the text realm, I thought that was cool.
I think it's because it's such an ingrained and like
basic
idea. You don't think about it, but every time you guys bring something up, I'm like, wow, you're right.
I mean the whole light and dark idea and like the humans being afraid of the dark is such an ingrained thing in our nature. I mean, like we only relatively recently have had control over light.
Right. Like as humans, we are.
Yes.
Darkness is scary because we don't know what's in the darkness.
Exactly.
One of my favorite uses, speaking of the darkness being scary, because I was always afraid of running out of the damn batteries in the flashlight, was Alan Wake.
Yeah, we talked about Alan Wake just a little bit earlier. But there is there an Alan Wake 2 out, or is it coming out soon?
There was an Alan Wake American Nightmares, which was like
American Nightmare.
American Nightmare was I don't know. It was like a weird like secondary game. It didn't really have a super creative plot. No one really liked it. Because there was almost no story. It was basically kind of like an arena sort of thing where it's like, oh, you had to fend off waves of enemies or something like that. But because Remedy is doing well, like with Control, which just came out, which if you haven't bought Control, go buy Control. It is a good game and they deserve your money.
Thank you, Dan.
But if they do another Alan Wake, it's going to be so good, and I really wish they would.
I think they are. I want to say I know for sure.
I really hope so. I'm not as confident as you, but I really hope that they do.
Wasn't there, and we can cut this out if we need to, but wasn't there a game that came out recently that used sonar as your only form of vision? Like there was a boop, and then it would like paint the walls with like red and blue dots. But that's the only way you could see.
Wasn't that one of the walking simulator games?
Yeah.
Not What Remains of Edith Finch. It was the other one.
Scanner Sombra.
Yeah, Scanner Sombra. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I haven't played, but it's a really cool idea to like have a game where your only way that you see is through sonar and how that changes how you see things.
It's very interesting. I think that's like not a literal in the dark, but like the proverbial like there is something that is obstructing your knowledge of something.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, the fog of war kind of stuff.
Right. Cool. Does anyone... I have one example where light is the enemy, and that is Super Smash Brothers. And other than that, I can't think of any other examples where light
besides
is like
Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear Solid?
Like avoiding spotlights.
Avoiding the spotlights.
Oh, avoiding spotlights. I guess I mean we have all these examples of personified darkness as evil. Or
That
at
doesn't
least-
get inverted much.
But it doesn't. Right. It doesn't get inverted much. Yeah, exactly. There's not a lot of examples of light as personified evil.
I think that's a human nature thing, though, because like Chris said before, it's like we're so ingrained to be like light good, dark bad. So that it's hard for us to be like the light is a bad thing, where unless we're like thinking in a dark mindset, whereas like the masquerade, bloodlines kind of stuff. Vampire things where it's like, okay, light is bad. It makes you have negative aspects.
Legacy of Cain.
Legacy of Cain. Yes, you can't go in the sun because it hurts.
True.
I mean, there's points in like, is it Destiny? Where
yeah,
or it might be Dead Space, where like the light is so powerful from like a star. Where, like, if you get into the light, you have to kind of...
It'll melt you or something.
It
it'll just straight up melt you.
There's some of that in Dead Space where, I think I remember that.
Yeah.
Right? You have to avoid, not getting your ass burnt up.
Yeah.
Because there's like a sun so close
you're like
to
right
you.
there by the sun, yeah.
Right.
The big yellow one.
I was just gonna say, should we discuss Limbo at all?
Ooh, yeah. It's a really interesting thing to bring up. What about it exactly, though?
The fact that the game is basically just shadows. That's the art of the game, and that's the whole game. Is that the game is just darkness and light. That's kind of it. You don't see a lot of like textures and things on what you're playing. It's all just kind of a backlit shadow vibe. It's really, really cool and something interesting that I didn't know worked so well, but that game's gorgeous, and I just kind of wanted to mention it real quick.
Yeah, and it's I find it impressive with Limbo and also with Inside, where they're taking this very dark, sort of nondescript character in a lot of ways, and I will do anything for this fucking kid.
It's so
Yeah.
true.
Like, please don't die again, kid. Come on, we can get through this.
Well, because
Right,
every
it's
time
just
it's
like-
just so brutal.
Yeah, they do that. But that's also, I think that has to do a little bit with the fact that it's a faceless antagonist, which we could put this as a whole other topic where you have...
Pretty sure we have talked about that a little bit.
Probably. Where there's an antagonist who doesn't have a personality, so you you impress yourself upon them so that they feel like it's me. Like this character here is me because it's just a silhouette of a person and I could be that person.
But that's kind of like the whole game too, where you don't get those textures and colors and exacts of what you're looking at necessarily. So like the enemies in it, like you get a creepy spider vibe, but you kind of get to create that spider yourself.
Right.
It's like a book, like you're reading a book but playing a game, and you make the environment a little more what you want, I feel like.
The
which
spider is
interesting.
scarier because you
Yeah.
can't see it.
Yeah. Just kind of like pops out of the background because it's all black. Like,
Implied
it's pretty cool.
spiders. Ooh.
Oof. All right, cool. Well, I think we're going to leave it there with implied spiders. If we missed talking about your favorite light or dark video game, light up our inboxes, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the things. Let us know. Talk to us. Tell us what we missed. We didn't talk about The Darkness, so if that's a video game that you like,
I
tell
thought
us
you
why.
meant the band.
Or, like, just any
That hurts my voice to do that one.
Star Wars games.
Star Wars, the dark side, it's a thing.
Sure is. They have cookies. That's the Marvel Street.
It's superior.
Anyway, so if you want to shout out any of those things, you can do so on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're going to call it a night because it's getting dark outside. Say goodnight, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody! Well, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Now I will go back into my coffin and go to sleep because there are no more technical difficulties. Everybody have a happy Halloween!